All right, Mayor, I think we're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Number one, welcome everyone to our public hearing concerning the 2020 and 2021 budget. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, and it's approximately 5:45. This is a virtual Zoom meeting being seen live on YouTube due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to acknowledge that both the press and the public were duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. I don't believe we received any comments from the public concerning our budget. Is that correct, Desiree?
Yes, sir, that is correct. We did not receive any public comment for the public hearing.
Would you like to go over the highlights of the budget that we have for the upcoming year?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the budget presented to council for second reading later at the regular city council meeting at 6 was unanimously approved by the Ways and Means Committee last week. The city's general fund revenues are $10,662,000, which represents an 8% decline from FY20 budget. The general fund expenditures are $11,356,000, which stays relatively flat from FY20. It's roughly $30,000 more in expenditures from the FY20 budgeted numbers. The proposed budget includes a debt service millage increase of 1.3 mils to cover the debt service on a 3.1 general obligation bond issue for the construction of the Phase 3 drainage project. The annual estimated debt service is $261,000 per year. The project involves the installation of upgraded drainage improvements in 3 of the city's major outfalls located at 30th, 36th, and 41st. Page 65 of the budget workbook that's included in your packets includes a schedule that shows the impact of that 1.3 mils increase to properties on the island. So for example, a house that's valued at around $500,000 would see an impact to the IOP portion of their property taxes of $26 a year. And that would only be for the duration of the debt. Okay. Total personnel costs for this upcoming FY21 budget represents roughly 70% of general fund expenditures and 32% of total citywide expenditures. This compared to about 73% of FY20 expenditures. So there's a slight decrease there. The budget includes a net loss of $2 million in the general fund and tourism funds due to COVID-19. The assumptions that are driving this decline include a 25% reduction in all tourism fund revenues and also a 25% reduction in general fund revenues associated with building permits, business licenses, residential rental licenses, and parking. Transfers in from the tourism funds to the general fund are at $877,236, which equates to approximately 8% of general fund revenue, not including transfers, and it's a slight reduction from FY20. These funds, as you all know, support tourism impacted services such as public safety, police and fire, and public works. The proposed budget includes funds to support the following initiatives and capital projects. $3.9 million to complete the improvements to the public safety building, which houses Fire Station 1 and the police department. That project has started this year, so it migrates onto the next fiscal year and is expected to be completed in November, weather permitting, of course. The budget also includes $3.1 million for the construction of Phase 3 drainage and including the elevation of the Waterway Boulevard path. $250,000 for a comprehensive drainage plan to identify priorities and next steps for island-wide drainage improvements. And also the $500,000 for the construction of the small but targeted drainage improvement projects located on Sparrow, Forest Trail, Cross Lane, 32nd and 41st Avenues. This is a rebudget from FY20 that we had to push to the next fiscal year due to some construction timing differences. This budget also includes $2.8 million for the replacement of the docks at the Palms Marina and $334,000 for the recoating and maintenance work on the bulkhead. Both of these projects are funded by bond proceeds, and the annual debt service would be serviced by a combination of rent revenues and state aid tax revenues. The budget also includes $600,000 to refurbish the 95-foot ladder truck. As you all know, this was budgeted in FY20 due to some delivery. The timing of delivery was rebudgeted, has been rebudgeted for FY21, and we're expecting delivery of that truck by August. $300,000 to refurbish the fire pumper truck. And both of these refurbishments, I just want to highlight that represent significant savings from compared to purchasing new equipment. So we're doing this at a time that it allows us the ability to fix our existing equipment rather than having to fully replace it. The city continues to proactively address deferred maintenance in city buildings and city assets. So this budget also includes our building maintenance contingency initiative of budgeting roughly 1% of the insured value of all of our city buildings and assets to address this. So FY21 would include $160,000 for this initiative. The budget also includes funds for the strategic planning process. Again, this is something that has been rebudgeted from FY20, and this would be a project in collaboration with the College of Charleston Center for Livable Communities that Council approved last month and will be starting next month. The Beach Preservation Fund is supporting a couple of projects, includes matching grant funds from the Greenbelt program to construct an ADA compliant beach walkover on 42nd Avenue. It also includes funds for the required post-project monitoring of the last beach renourishment project that was completed in 2018. And ongoing monitoring of the entire shoreline. The FY21 budget also includes funds for a feasibility study to study the conditions of the breach inlet area and the potential need for a project in the near future. The tourism funds are supporting also the purchase of 2 license plate readers to support enforcement of the paid parking plan initiative on Palm Boulevard, which we'll talk a little bit more during the regular city council meeting. And the capital projects fund and tourism funds are supporting the replacement of a flatbed for our public works department. There are 2 sources of general fund revenues that are included in this budget, and those include an increase from the parking rates that's estimated at about $235,000. And this is related to council's action last month. Was it last month? May, yeah. Last month to the rates on the parking lots and the on-street parking between 10th and 14th. It also includes approximately $225,000 for paid parking on Palm Boulevard and other existing beach parking areas between 3rd and 9th, again, associated with the project that we'll be discussing under public safety later today. So I think I do want to add something. We discussed it at Ways and Means. Of course, this budget is based on a lot of unknowns and a lot of assumptions with the best information that we have on hand today. We all know that COVID-19 and the impact of this pandemic will likely continue to affect the city in some way. We believe that we have been conservative in our estimations and in our numbers, but I think that there is a recognition that coming September, once we can see true actual numbers of this summer and we have a better or clearer picture of what the next couple months will look like, we'll be in a better position to estimate with a little bit more clarity. So I think, council understands, and I think there is a commitment with reviewing and revising these numbers coming September. So It may be that we're at a position of needing to potentially amend the budget, but we'll know when the time comes.
Thank you, Desiree. Again, just for our general public's rationale, number one, my hand is off to Desiree, to Debbie, to our department heads, everyone for keeping money tight. We know what's going on, but this public hearing tonight is just that, a public hearing. We've already had the first reading, and we'll have a second reading during our council meeting following this show right here. So again, all this was a public hearing tonight, so it could be heard out there, and you'll hear it again here shortly. I thank everybody for coming, and we will be meeting again in about 5 minutes. So don't leave, go get some popcorn, take a rest, and we'll see y'all. But in the meantime, Ryan, do you have anything you want to say?
No, not on, as per the budget. No, not for this one. No. Oh, do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, see y'all in 5.
Okay.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, Julia.
You're on mute.
How was the public hearing?
Great.
Public.
Lots of public comments.
Thrilling?
None.
None.
Those are the best kind. All right.
Comments.
Who's got the over-under on the meeting today?
Desiree's certainly got at least the over. She's at 4 hours.
I said 4 hours. We're live streaming, by the way.
Would that change anything?
No. I said between 3 and 4. If not, I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Wow.
It's 3.
Whew. I'm going to be optimistic and say 2.5.
Thank you for that.
All right, I'm going to raise you. I'm going to say 245.
Like the Price is Right.
Well, I told my family they were on their own for dinner.
Okay, where's everybody else's time frames?
Long time no see.
Hello, Norma Jean.
Hello, Mayor.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good to see you as always.
Thank you so much. Good seeing everyone too.
You too, Norma Jean.
Thank you. This is the most socialization I do, so it's pretty nice.
Serious.
Somebody's at the airport.
Somebody's swimming.
I don't know what that is, Rusty.
What do you hear?
A lot of background noise. Everybody's muted, but Rusty, Julia, and the mayor and Desiree.
Maybe Rusty's fan. Is it on?
It's on. Both of them. But they're freshly oiled, so I don't have to worry about them squeaking and that sort of thing. So they're all good.
It's 6:01, isn't it?
It is.
Desiree, ready?
We're ready.
Welcome everyone to our second official virtual city council meeting since February. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, and it's approximately 6:01. I'd like to acknowledge that both the press and the public were duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. As everyone knows by now, our meetings are being held due to the COVID-19 virus and held virtually and can be seen live on YouTube, or you can go back and watch all of our previous meetings. Please follow our latest news on our newly created website, www.iop.net, and follow us on both Twitter and on Facebook. Public comments can be submitted by following the agenda instructions on our website. Please feel free to join me or not while I say a short prayer to be followed by my saying the Pledge of Allegiance and then roll call. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this life on earth. I thank you for this bit of sand that I call home that is known as the Owl Palms. I know that life is always a combination of both good and bad. It's how we handle both that makes us who we are. When life is good, we rarely hear about it, but when we have challenges, we hear about them all the time. Please help and guide us tonight as we tackle some of these challenges and making the right decisions that will take us forward for future generations. Please, Father, look over our city family, our public safety personnel, our military, especially during this latest challenge, the COVID-19. Help everyone remember we are in this together, and to overcome this virus, we must all practice social distancing and wearing face masks in crowded areas. Father, look after our residents, our guests, and those who are sick. Lord, as we enter in the middle or the beginning of the 2020 hurricane season, look over and protect all coastal communities. I rest in peace knowing that you are always looking over me. Amen.
Amen.
If I'm going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, City Clerk Nicole Deneen, please.
Councilmember Streetman,
Present.
Councilmember Popson,
Present.
Councilmember Bell,
Here.
Councilmember Pounds,
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan, Councilmember Moy,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Ward, you're on mute.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Carroll,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping that we can do this all as one. The reading of the journals of the previous meetings minutes. We had 3 regular meeting, May 26, 2020, a public hearing on May 29th, 2020, and a special meeting on May 29th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to approve all as one?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Rusty, do you have a question?
No, I moved that we accept them as they are.
And I heard a second. Any discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Nicole, I guess we have to do roll call now.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson. He says aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward. I can see you.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
all in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Citizens' comments. We actually had quite a few. They ranged everywhere from mask to drainage to parking. So I'm glad to get those. We thank our public for sending those in. All of our council members have seen those and read those. So again, thank you all for sending them in. Moving on to reports by standing committees. First up at bat, Ways and Means. Mr. Chairman.
Sir, thank you, Mayor. Ron, if you can share the financial results for May, that would be great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So this is through May. So that's 11/12 of our fiscal year. So we're looking a lot better in May than we did in March and April. So trends certainly in the right direction. So you can see revenues of about 14.2 million year to date. Again, 11 months out of 12. Expenditures about 13.9. Just below the top 2 graphs is just the general fund. So the top 2 graphs are everything. The bottom 2 are just the general fund. So revenues there are 9.3 million. And expenditures also right about 9.3 million. So just to give you a sense for how things have improved in really a month, that first bullet under the May notes shows parking, just our parking revenues. So April was essentially 0. May, we had 126,000 in parking revenue compared to May of 19 of about 185,000. So certainly not back to full throttle, but again, a whole lot better than where we have been. So we reforecasted our fiscal year 20 budget, and we'll come in essentially flat between revenue and expenses. We reforecasted 21 fiscal year as well, looking decent there, but so again, much better than where we have been in the past. And then the last bullet item there, city currently has about 20 million in cash deposits. Of this, about 8.6 million is restricted. So that's a quick rundown on our financial numbers. Mayor, real quick, from the Ways and Means meeting last week, couple of comments before we have a few items to vote on. We discussed in detail the draft budget 4, which we just went through in public hearing, and we'll have a second reading here momentarily. We'll vote on an item from Thomas and Hutton about the Waterway Boulevard path. We'll discuss that in just one moment. Also a vote on citywide landscaping services that we've gone through an RFP process, and we'll have that recommendation for council tonight. We approved the recommendation from the Personnel Committee to include $20,000 in fiscal 21 budget for a wage and compensation study. We had a preliminary discussion about the IOP Water and Sewer Commission for approval of their bond and decommissioning and relocation of the Wild Dunes Water Treatment Plant. And we'll have a full presentation to council next month on that bond issue. Also discussed hiring a financial advisor to help us with our debt issues coming up later this year for phase 3 drainage and the Marina Dock rehabilitation projects. And discussed consent agendas, which we will also be voting on here in a moment. And our next Ways and Means meeting is Tuesday, July 21st at 6 o'clock. So Mayor, we've got 4 items we need to vote on tonight. First one is approval of a proposal from Thomas and Hutton in the amount of $18,900 for the conceptual study of the Waterway Boulevard path to evaluate the feasibility of elevating the path and provide opinions of probable cost. And again, this is in conjunction with our phase 3 drainage project. So an item we need to vote on, please, sir. And I'll make that as a motion if you want to.
I was just going to ask you, you're making that as a motion?
Yes, thank you, sorry.
Do I hear a second? Rusty Street been on silent, but I saw his hand go up. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this motion for Thompson Hutton amount of $18,900 conceptual study of the Waterway Boulevard path to evaluate the feasibility of elevating the path and provide opinions of probable cost, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Streetman, you're on mute. There we go. Thank you, Ron.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward, you're on mute. I can see him saying it. He says aye. Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
there you go. Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor.
Thank you. Mayor, second item is for approval of a contract with Pleasant Places in the amount of $70,500 for citywide landscaping services. Again, I'll make that in the form of a motion and provide some commentary. Have a second.
Do we have a second? Kevin Popson made the second.
Thank you.
So, real quick, this went through a competitive bid process, narrowed down to 2 companies, and our public works folks have recommended hiring Pleasant Places for this bid. So.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this motion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward. He says aye. Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan, Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items that we did not discuss at Ways and Means, but are coming through the ATAX committee as a recommendation. First one is item 3, consideration of a sponsorship request from the South Carolina Aquarium in the amount of $10,000 for the 2020 Turtle Trek 5K Sunset Beach Run to take place on Saturday, October 10th, 2020. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion. Councilmember Ward. You're mute.
How much do we usually give to the South Carolina Aquarium for this sponsorship each year?
Yeah, Desiree, were you going to add something to that? Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, I can answer that if I may. Councilmember Ward, the city has approved some sponsorships in the amount of $10,000 for the past couple years. I just want to highlight some changes in this year's proposed budget. So historically, we have included $50,000 to the state aid tax budget for projects and initiatives and sponsorships to be considered by the aid tax advisory board. This year, due to the COVID-19 impacts and the reduction in tourism, that provision has been reduced to $25,000. So just want to make sure that you all are aware of that change. And that's included in the proposed FY21 budget that you all will consider later on for second reading. but yes, this event was approved as a city-sponsored event a couple years ago, and I'm sorry I don't have the date. I think this is the third year that they've been doing it. I believe the first year they received a sponsorship of $7,000, and last year they received a $10,000 sponsorship from the city for this event. I did talk to the planning staff about COVID-19 and whether or not this event will be delayed or canceled, and they indicated that currently they're continuing planning and preparations for the event this October. However, they may change their approach this year and limit the participants that will be running on site to 300, and then encourage folks to conduct a virtual run with, where they're at, and also do some fundraising for them. So right now, registration has been paused. They currently have 221 folks registered, and they're going to cap it at 300 for now.
I know, yes, sir. Councilmember Ward.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But we reduced that entire fund for all of these events to $50,000. Is that correct?
We reduced the provision budgeted from 50,000 to 25,000. So that's money that's available to the state aid tax committee to make recommendations for different events throughout the year.
So if we approved this $10,000, we'd only have 15,000 left. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Knowing that in mind, I'd like to make an amendment to reduce that amount from 10,000 to 7,500.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to reduce it to amendment, and we have a second. Any discussion on the motion to amend from 10,000 to 7,500? Any discussion?
I have a
Is there
question.
any commentary from the ATAX committee around this? Why they got to 10 or not less, or?
10 was what was requested by the group
Gotcha.
and recommended by the ATAX.
Councilmember Streetman.
Yeah, let me make a comment on this if I could. I mean, I happened to listen to the ATAX committee meeting the other day and watched it as well. And the $10,000, of course, was on the table from the get-go. And Rusty Williamson asked a really good question about sponsorship, about being a named sponsor. And I know for that amount, they did agree to include the city of Isle of Palms on any T-shirts and related materials that they may have. Now, I don't know if reducing it from $10,000 to $7,500 compromises that at all, but I just wanted to put it out there because I was listening to that meeting the other day. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, I think a reduction. I mean, we're sitting here dealing with uncertainty. And, I was wondering where Councilmember Ward was going, but it seems some pro rata amount instead of the full amount, given where we're at right now, just simply makes sense. That's a significant portion of the entire budget to put a full $10,000 in that direction.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, I'm frozen. My position would be that the ATAX committee has made this recommendation knowing that they have reduced funds, and also that we will most likely have reduced requests for money for events, and because of the many reasons that were connected to the aquarium and their efforts around the turtles, as well as the fact that the turtle track is on Isle of Palms and it does pull in tourists to the area on an annual basis. I think we should stick with the 10,000 as recommended by the ATAX committee, which evidently had a significant discussion about it.
Anyone else? I'm going to add my 2 cents worth. The aquarium has been a great partner for City of Isle of Palms. Not only about turtles and the turtle rescue team, but also about pollutions, about plastics, about offshore drilling. They bring a lot of people to come into the aquarium to stay, which means heads and beds. And I appreciate Councilmember Ward's understanding of the budget and And knowing that we're in a very, very tight fiscal year, I appreciate his bringing that up. But I do want to say that the aquarium has been a great partner for the city of Isle Palms. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has come up in recent years where we've had multiple applications for events and sponsorships, and the response that I'd heard for new applicants was that all the money was already kind of committed to events from previous years. And I guess knowing that we've cut our budget in half, I don't know what the opportunity cost is off the top of my head for other events that we might not be able to support. So I don't know if the city administrator or any of my colleagues have a good sense of what are, if we do this, then we can't do that. That's kind of how the world works. If you do this, you can't do that. As I certainly echo the mayor's position, and obviously we all really love and support and want the aquarium to thrive. The question is, there's a lot of great institutions out there that we want to thrive. What are some of the events that we might have to forego, or sponsorships that we may have to forego if we were to adopt the full 10,000?
Desiree?
Sure, yes, I don't have a full list of the events that were approved last year in front of me. I do know that the two that are on the agenda today are pretty regulars. Council does not always approve all of the recommendations from ATAX. So even though they may come every year, there are some reasons why funds have not been allocated to certain projects and some certain events. We can definitely, if that is if that would help for the decision making, we can get that information, just get a comparable for the last 2 years of those events that have been funded through ATAX, without really knowing whether or not they're going to move forward with the same event this year or not. I will say that these two are pretty consistent in their request for funding from the city.
Councilmember Propson.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the aquarium and the turtles, but we're all getting cut with revenues, and I think this is a great compromise. They're still getting 7,500, so I would support what Councilman Ward had said in reducing this a little bit.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Nicole, roll call for the amendment, reducing from 10,000 to 7,500.
Councilmember Streetman,
Nay.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Nay.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Nay.
Mayor Carroll.
Nay.
Motion passes, the amendment passes 5-4.
Now we're going back to the original amendment. Nicole, would you read it to us now?
The motion as amended is to award the South Carolina Aquarium the amount of $7,500 for their run in October. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Roll call.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan. You're on mute. Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you.
Mayor, last item is consideration of a sponsorship request. Again, this from the ATAX committee from the Carolina Coast Surf Club in the amount of $1,000 for advertising and promotion of tourism through SurfCam including a link to the City of IOP website for beach access, parking, and traffic information. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Do I hear a second? I'll second that.
Thank you.
Discussion. Councilmember Ward.
Well, to be consistent with what we did on the last vote, I would have to respectively ask council to consider $750 as an amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, an amendment and a second. Do I hear discussion on this? Using it from $1,000 to $750.
I'll just say that I feel like we should be following, in this case, the recommendation of the ATAX committee as stated before. They discuss these things more thoroughly and understand the parameters of the money that's available.
Anyone else? Councilmember Moy.
You know, my question before was related to information that we don't have at hand. So we're making decisions tonight based on information we don't have. I'm of the persuasion that if we discover that, you know, there's far fewer applications for sponsored events this year, we can always come back and offer these groups more money. But for now, I think we should be consistent to Councilmember Ward's point.
Any other discussion? I'd like to throw one more thing in there. Desiree, correct me if I'm wrong, but normally Daniel Allen has their tennis tournament, which did not happen this year. So that's one of the things that we normally sponsor that we're not sponsoring this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have been sponsored in the past. How often? I don't have that information in front of me.
But yeah, it didn't happen this year.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, sir. Councilmember
Mayor, real quick, I'm not sure exactly what all we get for this 1,000 or 750 or whatever number we come to, but I thought I would just mention, Mayor, you asked about this last meeting, the Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester County of Government's new beach app is finally available. And it gives links to, you know, the 3 beach communities, traffic feeds, parking information, beach rules and such. So that is now out there. So Desiree, I don't know for the 1,000 if we're just getting a replication to some degree of beach access, parking and traffic info, just like this COG app will give us now as well. So maybe something else to consider.
That's great news, though.
I know it's been a while, as you know.
Yes. I mean, that is true. You know, this is a camera that a lot of surfers apparently use. And it has a lot of information from the city that they include there. So that is what this would be supporting, some sponsorship in the event of advertising and continued dissemination of information about the city's parking rules and other parking other regulations on the beach. So it's another group of folks that would have access to that information other than the website and this new beach app. Another demographic, I guess.
Desiree, do we use their camera on our website?
We do not. Currently, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for the amendment?
And just one
Yes,
thing.
Councilmember
And I
Kim.
believe this is not so much more traffic, but maybe more beach traffic related. So, and we're trying to get people to look at the cameras to decide whether or not the beaches are full, the roadways are full. I think this here, we'll just give them an opportunity to look at the beach, the commercial area, to find out whether or not somebody may or may not want to come down to the beach if it's too crowded, or if the waves are good, if waves are not good. So it's just another education outlet. And like I agree with Jim, we need to look at our monies and spend them wisely, not knowing what's coming ahead of us.
Okay, hearing no other comments. A vote for the amendment to reduce it from $1,000 to $750. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Nay.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Most, the amendment passes 8-1.
Now back to the original amendment, which is now reduced to $750.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
very good, thank you. Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much.
Very good. Mayor, that's it. I'll just tell you real quick. The app with the cog is called Beach Reach, and they have a Android version as well as an iPhone version. So again, it's Beach Reach. It's pretty good, actually. I looked at it today. So that's it, Mayor.
Before you get away, are they going to be socially promoting this? Are they going to be putting this out in the newspaper? Are they going to be putting this on the TV stations? Because we have to, Chief Cornett and I and Desiree talked about this morning, that we have to be active in letting everybody know when our beach is 50% full, 60%, 70, 80, 90, 100% full. Is that what this is about?
Yeah, and Mayor, we've got a COG meeting in a few days. I'll find out for definite. I know they had it in their newsletter this week. Assuming they will use social media to push out, but I'll verify that.
You tell Ron I'm ecstatic. Thank you for my pushing him a couple of years ago.
I know it. Thank you. That's it. That's it, Mayor.
Okay, public safety.
Unmute. There we go. Now let me get back over here. Perfect. The Public Safety Committee met Thursday, June 4th at 1 p.m. All committee members were present, including the administration and the chiefs. We had assistants comments, and they'll be attached to the, the minutes when they're posted under old business. We continue to have discussion of implementation of paid parking on the designated public beach parking zones, and discussion about parking on Ocean Boulevard as well. And the administrator gave a detailed presentation about the history and the future of implementing paid parking on all the Palms. Excuse me. But the presentation reviews the mission, the manage of the beach parking plan, the operating expenses of the parking management, the existing rights of way, the parking zones, and other areas that we're going to consider for paid parking. We can't do it fast enough, honestly. But that presentation is available on the city's website, and it's something good to see. And it's interesting to note that the city right now is about $300,000 out of taxpayers' money to fund beach parking. And that doesn't even include public works and some of the fire department, stuff like that. So it definitely could go higher than that. We had an update on our public safety rehabilitation project. The project is ahead of schedule and on budget. And as Desiree mentioned earlier, then the anticipated completion is November, barring good weather and everything. And also stated that any council member who wishes to do a walkthrough of the building, just contact her and you can do a walkthrough with the project manager. We did have some discussion of the existing rules for dogs on the beach. We've had a couple instances where some children have been knocked down and some other folks have been bit. The chief has really been ramping up enforcement of dog leash laws, and we are looking at other ways to either amend our dog leash laws or look for zones, but we're still working on that. One thing we've always, Jimmy Ward and I have always talked about out here on the island is two of our biggest issues out here are dogs and parking, and it always seems to circle back around. So we did have discussion from the Planning Commission related to short-term rentals. And there was a motion that came out of our committee, basically, and the motion was a recommendation to full council on the recommendations from the Planning Commission to include requiring an owner's representative to be on site within an hour of being called limiting the daytime occupancy, and changing the business license revocation process after 5 founded complaints within a calendar year. That motion was made, it was seconded, and it was passed unanimously. Desiree, I'm not sure if we need another motion to clarify that at this time.
Ryan, it's on our agenda for later on in the meeting.
Okay, as long as we can do it later then. It's fine. You got it. Let me move on then. We had discussion of beach parking. Obviously, those who've been out and about noticed that the recreation department parking lot was filling up, as well as areas around Hartnett and 27th Avenue and 28th Avenues. We've asked the recreation director to put a sign out in front of the parking lot that says parking for recreation purposes only, or recreation center only. And I believe that has helped. We're still getting parking along Hartnett. We're still getting along parking around 27th, and those are the issues that we're going to have to deal with. And I've mentioned this many times with the growth of the Charleston area and trying to manage our beach parking. It becomes a whack-a-mole situation where you try to control one area and it just pushes things elsewhere you're not quite ready for. And then what we are handling that, and we're looking into issues into rectifying those things. We did have discussion of the exception in the city code that allows the Hobie Cat style sailboats, which are operable and in good condition, to be left on the beach. A lot of times Hobie Cat boats can be left in the soft sand on basically, which is in private property. We had some concerns about those boats that have been abandoned, and the police department is going to be identifying the owners of boats that are currently on the beach. And if they're found to be abandoned, they will be removed. The fire department, Chief Graham gave her report, and it'll be attached to the minutes as well. Chief Cornett gave his report and said there was about 2,400 calls for service in May, and 2,300, just over 2,300 parking tickets were issued, and 176 other violations were written. It was very busy. They've been writing a lot of tickets. The next meeting for public safety will be July 6th at 9 a.m.
Great report. Any questions for the chairman?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Or an encouragement that at this point, before we move fully forward with the paid parking plan, which will require new signage, I'm sure, for next year along Palm Boulevard and other streets, that we have a serious conversation about whether we could eliminate the spaces, the parallel parking spaces on the non-ocean side of Palm Boulevard, whether that could potentially benefit in terms of safety. And if we're gonna make a move like that, the time would be to do it before we buy a whole bunch of new signs for paid parking. So I feel like the conversation should be, the time is now.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councilmember Bell.
Just a quick question and follow up to what was asked the last time. There's been a lot of commentary in the public about our collection rate on parking tickets. Desiree, do we have any updated information or an estimate of where we generally, I know we've discussed it in prior years.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Yes. So we ran a report through our clerk of court to try to identify our collection rate. So roughly 14% of all tickets that were issued in 2019, well, the last 12 months actual. So from March 1st of 2019 through March 31st of 2020, we have about 14% of citations that have not yet been collected.
So
There were a couple
85% plus column.
So not necessarily, and I've responded to a few council members who inquired about that same thing earlier today. So that 82% of what you might think is paid citations include the citations that were either dismissed by the court or were changed to warnings after the fact. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper to try to get a more accurate count of that 84%. But we do have a very good collection rate, but that's, I guess, hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, just another question. As it says, the administrator is looking into the rec center parking. And I might be missing something, but couldn't we make the Hartnett 27th and 28th Avenue, couldn't we make that part of the residential parking sticker parking restrictions?
Well, we could. The problem that comes with that is we have so many events at the rec center, whether it's softball games at night or softball games, or whether people are coming down to utilize the rec centers. It becomes a problem because they would have to, I mean, there wouldn't be any place for anybody to park unless it was inside the parking lot itself. And that's one of the things we've talked about, and probably will discuss it, and it may have to be within the new parking plan. Could be timed. A lot of the softball games are at night. So there is a lot of beach parking I've noticed, because it's right there. You know, we notice it. A lot of folks parking all the way up and down 27th here and walking to the access. And it hasn't been too bad, but it's definitely something we're going to have to look into before it becomes an issue.
Anyone else for Councilmember Buchanan? Yes, Councilmember Moy.
I'll just tack on to Councilmember Popson's, just a thought maybe to consider for Chair Buchanan and Chief Cornett, that, you know, downtown, there's a lot of times where they cover up parking signs for events and certain things. And they, you know, it seems like there's probably some leeway where we could make it residential, but provide the accommodation for anytime we have, you know, games or events that need parking above and beyond residents. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Buchanan, one real quick one. Are you positive we can get this thing passed through next summer?
For what? The paid parking?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, we'll have it. And I wish I could put up the timeline screen that we have for the presentation, but yeah, we're going to start working on it here. As soon as the budget passes, we'll be able to go through and purchase all the equipment that's necessary in order to implement it. We'll start our training. We'll continue to work with DOT to get our signage in place. And then it'll be up and running by next beach season. Desiree?
Yes, I don't mean to overcomplicate things, but in order for us to meet that deadline of being ready for implementation in March 2021, there are a few things that we do need council direction on. So that's why it's on the agenda for a little bit more of an in-depth discussion with council. And I don't mean to extend the meeting any further, but I do, you know, we included the presentation that we gave to Public Safety Committee. We included that in the council packet. Mm-hmm. And you can see, you know, I don't have to go through the whole thing. You know, we went through and discussed the mission of the Managed Reach Parking Plan, and how successful that has been in the past 5 years. We talked about the operating expenses, and maybe Ron can pull that up quickly in the shared screen. We talked about the operating expenses of parking management. We looked at the number of police and fire calls, just so that folks understand the true cost and the resources that the city has to expend in order to provide services to folks that come to the beach. And maybe Ron, if you want to go to the last couple pages where you go through the timeline.
Back one, right there. Yeah.
There you go. So go to council direction first, please. Okay. So these are sort of the main points that we need council to provide direction to staff so that we can start going a little bit deeper into the development of what the paid parking plan will look like. One is the locations for implementation. We have talked about how the existing beach parking areas that are located on Palm Boulevard, both sides of the street, also between 21st and 40th, and then the land side of Palm Boulevard between 41st and 57th could be included in this paid parking program, as well as some beach parking areas between 3rd Avenue and 9th Avenue. There are other locations that have not yet been treated by the beach management plan. It was mentioned earlier about the area around the rec center. There's also the Breach Inlet parking lot. We believe that some of these areas should be addressed as part of this plan because, they could be overrun with folks looking for free parking if everywhere else that you park on the island, it comes with a fee. So we need some council direction on the locations. We also need some direction on the days and times of enforcement. As you all know, when the city first implemented the parking plan in 2015, it was enforced seasonal between March 1st and March 15th through September 15th. Since then, some of the changes to that plan include going year round, but although the city enforces the parking regulations along the beach parking areas and residential areas year round, the paid parking on Front Beach is seasonal. It's from March 1st through October 31st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there's no consistency in the times or the dates, and we would encourage the plan to be consistent on both of those. Parking rates, it's something that we also have to talk about, whether or not it will be an hourly fee, a daily fee, if the city is going to provide seasonal passes for non-residents to be able to use on the island. And then also, in order for the city to be able to receive approval from FCDOT, the city would have to assume responsibility for the shoulder of the maintenance of the shoulders of the road. We currently do that already in some way, but the city would be officially assuming responsibility for any future improvements. So if we go to the next one, Ron, we can, or that one. Next steps in terms of a timeline so that we're ready to go by March 1st. Assumes that we have direction and decisions from council by August so that council could approve a final plan with some of these details addressed in the plan. All of these changes would have to be done by amendments to the ordinance, as you all know, that's a process that requires 2 readings. So we're gearing up so that we can have an updated sign plan. We can have draft ordinances before city council for consideration in September. By the end of October, we can have council consider a second reading. Then we'd have to have a public hearing as well, and it would give us about 2 or 3 months to purchase the signs, install signs, which we're not anticipating any new signs. We would be replacing existing signs with new signs. And we would have about 3 more months, 3 months within that same period, we would have 3 months for marketing and education campaign on this change and be ready to go by March 1st. So I don't need any decisions made tonight, but I just want to put it out there and put this in front of you all so that you can noodle on it a little bit more and we could all be prepared to work on it in more detail in the next couple months.
And those of you, I don't know, I'm assuming that most all of you had the opportunity to look and go through that, and but looking at all the pay parking, and we'll take this back to public safety. We'll come out of public safety with recommendation. It's next in July, and on where it'll be, what the cost will be, and whether it's seasonal or what have you. Yes, but yes, Mayor, quick answer. Yes, we'll have it in place by next year.
And Chairman Buchanan, if you need an extra council meeting, we will call one to get this done in time.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for that report.
Right.
Randy Bella's question.
Yeah, quick question, Jimmy. Just while we're thinking of this, though, think of, the overall objective is, I still believe it's a quality of life and public safety objective.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at revenue, please look at the expense that we have that go along with it. It's real easy to say, paid parking generates X amount of money, but we have substantial expense, as Councilmember Smith was pointing out, in maintaining that for public parking. I'm all in favor of paid parking, but I think we need to take a hard look at exactly where that parking is going forward because we're just overrun.
Move on.
So the presentation includes a schedule that shows current expenses associated with just parking management. They're roughly $300,000 a year, but it does not include, other expenses associated with, increased police and fire response, public works, garbage, the front beach public restrooms.
Right.
So that's a little bit harder to come at, but we can certainly get to a sort of a total number of expenses associated with the city providing services for day visitors or people who come stay on the island.
Very significant.
Thank you very much.
It's a big number.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your report. Public Works.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Public Works Committee met Thursday, June 4th at 8 a.m. All members were present along with staff. We had a department report from Donnie and Robert. They continue to just knock out a lot of drainage and day-to-day issues on behalf of the city. So thank you folks for your efforts. We had an update on phase 3 drainage and as well as the small internal projects. Phase 3 drainage, as you all heard, is a big ticket item and in our budget for next year. We are hoping to be ready to start that at the beginning of 2021 calendar year, if we can stay on track there and finish up the permitting project. We had an update on the IOP connector and sidewalk extension. Hopefully you've all seen that. Donnie mentioned earlier, we've got pine straw on order. The lighting's in, the sod's in, the palm trees are in. Donnie, it looks great, I think. We already talked about the citywide landscaping RFP and had that vote. We're going to have a vote here in just a minute about the city's tree fund and a recommendation to let the Planning Commission take over that. We had continued conversation about Dominion Energy and kind of next steps with regard to projects with them and funding. Our next meeting of the Public Works Committee will be July 2nd at 8 a.m.
Okay, so far you get the star. Any questions for Public Works?
After last month, I need it. Yeah. Mayor, the one item we need voting on here is a recommendation to request the Planning Commission to develop a plan and recommendation for the use of the tree fund that the city has. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay.
Third, fourth.
Somebody got a second in there somewhere, Nicole. I hope you saw it.
I grabbed Councilmember Smith.
All right, discussion.
I'll put in my 2 cents, which is that really excited about the possibility of using this money, significant amount of money, which we've restricted for essentially for trees and beautification, that we not let it go to waste in a moment when we're pressed for other funding. We have this opportunity to use this money, and I'll be interested to hear what the Planning Commission recommends. We included in our discussion at the committee, I would also like to see the Planning Commission look at the possibility of doing something around rain gardens and promoting that within our community. And so I hope that as part of this conversation, they'll look at how rain gardens, which can help with drainage issues, could be promoted for residents to do. It may not necessarily be connected to the tree fund, but I'd also like to get their input on that.
Anyone else? Councilmember Propson.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just the Planning Commission, maybe they could think about using some of these funds to help grind out the palmetto stumps that Dominion left in all these people's yards. Well, the right of way, but it's shameful for what they did.
Desiree, I think, go ahead.
I think we were both going to say the same thing, Mayor. We have been requested by several council members that the city reaches out to City of Charleston and the Stop Dominion group, and the mayor and I have a meeting with them scheduled for later this week to get a little bit more information about what options the city has available related to Dominion Energy and their tree trimming practices.
Exactly what I was going to say. Thank you. Okay, and any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Nicole?
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you. Okay, anything else from Public Works? Hearing
Yes, sir.
none.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recreation Committee met on June 1st, and that was actually several weeks ago now. That's been a pretty fluid situation. So in a moment, I'm going to let our Recreation Director give us an update since things have, I'm sure, have changed since then. But one of the things that we talked about was MUSC. Their back to business review was done at the rec center, and I think that was helpful to them as they got ready to start opening up facilities. And there's been several changes to planned events and moving the dates. Once again, I'll go ahead and let Norma Jean take over from here and fill us in on where we are. Camp Summershine, I know, has kicked off, among other things.
That's correct. We're actually really busy. Camp's going well. We did have to change the way we do things because of the COVID-19, and the campers are in smaller groups, and we're also having volleyball camp this year, so that made it a little bit more difficult. So we rerouted their drop off at the back, and Summershine's at the front. And we also are having tennis camp, but they don't even come in the facility. So we've had to do a lot of rearranging to accommodate all of our camps. We did postpone our basketball camp, which was supposed to be in June. That's now scheduled for August, and depending on how things go, we may not have basketball, but right now we're anticipating making that happen. We do have a couple of classes. We don't have a lot. Some of our instructors are a little bit nervous to come inside of a facility, even though we have lined the floors off to make sure there is social distancing in the rooms. So we do have one class on Tuesdays and Thursdays inside the facility. And then Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we're having a slight TRX class under the picnic shelter, which I think we have a maximum of 6 under the shelter every Monday and Wednesday and Friday. So that's going as well as can be. We're trying to get some yoga classes started. We're doing, and we also have an 8:30 class on Mondays and Wednesdays, Fridays, I think that's right, that we're Zooming as well. So we have 3 or 4 people in the class, and then we probably have 6 or 8 that are Zooming that class. So we're trying to accommodate as many folks as we can and give them all the opportunities we can. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of it.
Thank you. And so the only other thing that I think we need to discuss, which is on the agenda, Councilmember Moy had brought up the fact that Isle of Palms parents who send their kids to Folly Beach for surf instruction don't have that opportunity this year because the bus for that program is not being provided. And that pointed us back to a conversation about offering surfing instruction. And the request was made to see what we could do through the rec center to try and make that happen this summer, knowing that surfing is probably one of your safer opportunities during COVID-19. So if I'm actually will be interested to hear what the report is on that.
Okay. The first thing I did is reach out to the Municipal Association because I know that at one time they were not that fond of us providing any sort of high risk activities. But with the criteria I gave them, they're willing to take the risk to allow us to do surfing lessons.
Awesome.
I reached out to a couple of guys that I know can teach surfing, and I had 2 to contact me. So I have several folks that might be interested in teaching some surf classes. And this, like everything else right now, is fluid. It depends on how many people sign up, how many instructors we have. For instance, we have 3 yoga instructors. Well, we may have 3 surfing instructors, because I hope that we can not only have them for the younger kids, but the older kids and even adults. So I guess it depends on how many people sign up. I will say the Municipal Association said, however, as with all hypothetical claims considerations, until we actually receive allegations in a lawsuit, we wouldn't know whether specific exclusions may apply. So they're saying, you know, we don't know, but we're willing to go with you. We would like to start these in September. However, right now I cannot find any lifeguarding or water safety instructors classes. Those are kind of been put on hold as well. So I reached out to Charleston County, City of Charleston, St. Andrews, North Charleston, Goose Creek, to see if they're having any classes right now. Since they all have pools, it would make sense that they would be having some sort of life-saving or lifeguarding lessons. And they don't have any going on right now, but they're going to look and see if they can find us something so that we can get these folks that are interested in teaching, get them certified before we can actually put them on the beach and do lessons. And we're talking about doing it year round, not just in the summer, but during the fall, as long as it's, you know, the weather is feasible. So I'm optimistic. I think we can make it happen, but we're just going to have to get some certifications first.
Very good. Susan?
Thank you. I know it would be the ideal to try and start those in the summer. But that at least gives us some hope that maybe we can make some things happen. I don't know if Councilmember Moy might want to chime in.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Norma Jean. I appreciate
Sure.
everything that you and the rest of staff done to kind of pull this together so quickly. Am I understanding you correctly that the reason for September is the lack of certified instructors?
That's correct.
So if we were able to identify individuals who carried that certification and the ability to teach surfing, we could accelerate that timeline. Is there any reason we couldn't do it, move forward in July?
I'm not saying we can't. Of course, they would have to go through the same procedure all employees have to. We'd have to do the background, the drug testing.
Okay.
And they would have to have the certification. But yeah, there's nothing to say we couldn't start sooner, but they would need the proper certifications.
Understood. Thank you.
Councilmember Bell and then Buchanan.
Yeah, we've had a bid out now that's gone unanswered for franchise or whatever we want to call it. Why on earth do we want to run this through the rec center and not just allow the already certified expert surf instructors to do surf lessons this summer on the beach? This is, I think, now the 3rd year that I've been in the conversation on surfing, and we still haven't resolved it. We do not need to, in my opinion, run this through the rec department. Children just want to be able to go out and surf and learn how to surf. It just feels like we're overcomplicating something that's not that complicated.
Councilmember Buchanan.
Norma Jean, in 2 parts on this. Is there a way to, if we're running through the rec center, you're trying to make the surf instructor certified for CPR, first aid, or what have you, or lifeguard, basically? Would it be possible to have somebody who's already CPR certified as a lifeguard stand on the beach and watch as their surf instructor is working? Or do you need to have the person in the water at the same time monitoring that?
To address Councilman Bale, not all of the folks that are conducting surfing camps are certified. They're very good at what they do, but that doesn't mean that they're certified. And in fact, a couple of the gentlemen that I talked with do surfing camps now in Folly Beach. But the Municipal Association, I did reach out to them, and I'd already put this in my recommendations or my qualifications is they recommend that they have a water safety instructor course. Of course, they have to be certified in first aid and CPR and know what to do in the event of emergency. The process would be to have 3 students per instructor and always have a lifeguard on the beach. So if you had 6 students, you'd have 2 instructors in the water and you would have a lifeguard on the beach. So that would be 3 employees.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. To the administrator. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to address a couple points that reminded me by Councilmember Bell's question. The city did have put out 2 or I think 3 requests for proposals last year and this year. However, although some proposals were received, the committee did review those proposals in depth, and no recommendation was made to City Council to grant a franchise agreement to any of the proposals received. So I think that is part of the reason why we were looking at other alternatives to still provide that service to the community. And then there's also the other concern was, the city has been very vigilant, I guess, very protective of allowing commercial activity on the beach. And there was a concern that allowing one franchise agreement for surfing lessons may open, the Pandora's box, if you will, of creating precedent for the city authorizing commercial activity on the beach. So hopefully that answers the question. I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody on council, but it seems to me that was part of the transition, I guess, to where we find ourselves now, where we have the opportunity to offer it as a rec program, and provides more control to the city in doing so.
And protection.
And I'm sorry.
Is the ball now in Director Page's court?
Yes. Nicely said. Yeah, I'm actually very encouraged to hear that I think the concern previously in the city being involved with this was some concerns around liability, but it sounds like we're getting some new information from the municipal association that makes us feel more confident in moving forward. And it will allow the rec center to the city to have more control, hopefully. So thank you for that, Norma Jean, and thank you for the input, everybody. Otherwise, the next meeting of the Recreation Committee will be on Monday, July 13th at 5 p.m. Thank you. Here ends my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions real quick? Hearing none, moving on to personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Personnel Committee met on Tuesday, the June 8th at 9 a.m. via Zoom. We had a brief meeting. We talked about the wage and compensation study that was added to the budget. So I don't know that we really, there's no motion here since we've already taken it up in Ways and Means. And that was the bulk of our meeting. We're going to meet again on July 7th at 9 a.m. And that so ends my report unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Chairman Moy's report? I do have one question. As I said during our meeting, is with our doing this, we have to be prepared to move forward with our personnel costs, whether police, fire, sanitation, recreation, everything. We got to be ready to do this if we're going to spend the money for this comparison. So thank you. Okay, so ends your report. Any questions? Hearing none, moving on. Real property.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee met Wednesday, June 10th All committee members were present, as well as administration. We had citizens' comments that would be attached to the minutes of this meet. Under marina attendance comments, the administrator read a statement from Michael Pham of Tidal Wave, and the comments will be entered into the record as well. Under old business, we had an update on the marina dock permitting and rehabilitation. And Desiree, you can jump in here anytime if you want. But basically, the administrator reported that cities received permits from both OCRM and the Army Corps for the marina rehabilitation project. And ATM is performing the final review of the technical specifications in the design, and that'll be completed quickly. The draft documents needed for the RFP process have been submitted. In regarding financing the project, we're working on that through the budget. Regarding tidal wave water sports dock, the administrator reported that the city has received the permit from OCRM, and it's now under review by the Army Corps of Engineers, which could take another month or two to complete. And she did state that the Army Corps we've been advised by the Army Corps that the city must wait until the permit is issued in order to take action to fix any encroachments that are on that dock. As you guys know, the floating wooden dock is encroaching a little bit into the setback, and we were going to try to adjust that, but we have been instructed not to do so until we have a permit in hand. We had discussion, is basically has been brought up again that the Corps sent a letter stating that any jet dock structure that was attached to the outside of the floating dock has to be removed. We were on notice for that, and we have made the tidal wave move that jet dock structure to behind the floating dock. We had a meeting in an update on the restaurant lease proposal. John Bushnell of IOP Families Group said that during the past 5 months, they've had the opportunity to hire architects, structural engineers, and contractors to evaluate the building and potential redesigns and repositioning the building. We met with them again the other day, had a real good meeting. They met with some of the folks down at the marina site today. And I think, Desiree, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or if you had any update from that.
I don't now, but I do have a follow-up meeting tomorrow. I do know that they had a meeting today. It was very successful. Yeah, the city's supposed to receive some information that was requested of the prospective tenant. They had indicated that information will be provided by Thursday of this week. So I think we'll be in a position for city council to potentially, the mayor hopefully calls a special meeting for all council be able to discuss any additional contractual arrangements.
Correct. So, and they submitted their bid to the city, and we have been discussing it, although as with all contracts, they have to be discussed in executive session. And so that's one thing we've been doing is discussing it, and hopefully, like I said, and the mayor, they'll get that information to us soon, and the mayor can call a special meeting and we can sign off on that.
Right.
We've had an update on the public safety building, which I mentioned previously. We have an update on the Greenbelt program application for funding for an ADA compliant beach walkover in observation deck at 42nd Avenue. We've had some concerns about the idea of observation deck. It's not that it's a big observation deck. It's just a spot where you can stand off to the side to allow people to pass. But that is still working. We're still working through that. Under new business, we had discussion of the next steps related to the commercial use of the dock related to tidal wave. There was some concern about the loss of revenue or income to the city upon the expiration of the tidal wave water sports lease ends in October. But still, there's as mentioned by Councilmember Bell that the city's council's hands are tied until the plans for the proposed restaurant are more firm, and the comments that received from the public during the community meetings that were held back in January that were postponed for discussion here because of COVID. And we will get that back on and discuss it. And a lot of the information is available on the city's website as well. We did have some discussion in executive session. No action was taken, and we came out of executive session, and our next meeting is scheduled for I don't have it on the agenda.
We,
So,
we don't have a meeting yet.
Haven't
We
yet.
are, we're trying to schedule it. I think there's some folks that are gonna be out of town, so we'll be scheduling it soon. I do have two updates. One is that the Greenbelt Advisory Subcommittee Advisory Board, Greenbelt Program Sub-Advisory Group, it's late, has made a recommendation and approved the city's project for the ADA walkover. So the next step would be to bring it before the full committee, and we're expecting full approval by the end of July. So the FY21 budget, like I mentioned during the FY21 budget hearing, does include some matching funds for that. And we have also discussed at Real Property, I believe, in public safety about the plan to enhance or increase the number of handicap parking spaces that are located on 42nd Avenue. Currently, we have one. That area is included in the residential parking district. So I think that this will be a good opportunity to increase the number of handicap parking spaces there. The other thing is that, yes, we are, I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to look at the new website, but we have a new website, and we're currently creating a content page for the marina that will include a chronology and timeline of all the actions taken on those leases, include the compilation of all the responses from the Marina Citizen Input Session. We'll present that full report to Real Property next month, and hoping to have a really good discussion there, and those responses and the categorization of all the input received will be included on that page. We're really excited about the opportunity to make more accessible, make information more accessible to the community that way. So those are just two updates that I wanted to add.
perfect. And Desiree, with the increased handicap parking at 42nd, and we had at one time True Grid had offered to give us areas that we could utilize their product, and that may be a good area. Being how we're just going to stabilize the Palm Boulevard shoulders now instead of using their product, is to go through and utilize that, because you can be marked easily as handicap accessible as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you, Chair.
And that ends my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Reports from city officers, boards, and commissions. The Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, the minutes are attached. Board of Zoning Appeals, there was no meeting. And Planning Commission, the meetings minutes are attached. Reports from special or joint committees, none. Petitions received, referred, or disposed of, none. Bills already in possession. This is the second reading tonight. Ordinance 2020-03, an ordinance to raise revenue and adopt a budget for the city of Isle Palm, South Carolina for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending on June 30th, 2021. Do I hear a motion? Philip Pounds, raise his hand. Here we go.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion on the budget? Hearing none. Nicole, roll call, please.
Absolutely. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward, I see him. He says thumbs up. Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much. Moving on. We have a budget, a fluid budget that we need to remember, but a budget. The next ones are first readings, ordinance 2020-04, an ordinance to reduce the maximum occupancy at a short-term rental to twice the maximum overnight occupancy, not to exceed 40 people. This is what Ryan was referring to earlier. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
There's no discussion. This is first reading.
Second.
And a second. No discussion, so all those in favor, roll call, please.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward, says aye. Thumbs up. Councilmember Moy,
I have no idea why they won't unmute me.
There you go.
there you go.
I think when I try to unmute you, Jimmy, you mute yourself and we're playing back and forth. So I'm just gonna leave you unmuted.
Okay.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you, unanimous. Ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance to add conditions, suspension of a rental business license, require an owner's representative to be physically on site within 1 hour of receiving a complaint, and conditions for the advertisement of rentals. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
There is a second.
Second.
And there's no discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Unanimous, thank you very much. Ordinance 2020-06, an ordinance to include the use of consent agendas. Now I'm actually going to have Desiree, for our public purposes, just explain what this is about for everybody watching us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. We discussed the use of the consent agendas during the Ways and Means meeting, and I think that the purpose or the goal is to have more efficient meetings, where some decisions that are routine, non-controversial could be added to the consent agenda, and not require individual action by council. Particularly, for the use of the minutes, and oftentimes Ways and Means Committee will discuss a long list of items that receive unanimous support. So, there will be an opportunity, if desired by council, to, include them under the consent agenda and approve them in one vote without necessarily needing to discuss and take action for each one. However, if any council member decides that they want to change their position, or they want further discussion, or have any questions, it only takes one council member saying that they would like to take that item out of the consent agenda and discuss it further, and it would be removed from the consent agenda and then placed on the regular agenda. The reason why it's on before you all for first reading is that our code, the city's code, includes a very detailed order of business for city council agendas. So we would have to add the ability to use consent agendas to the code so that we can include it in the next agenda. So that's pretty much it. It's used widely in different councils and board meetings. And it's just, to trying to expedite, the time of meetings.
Thank you very much. So ordinance 2020-06, an ordinance to include the use of consent agendas. Do I hear a motion?
I make the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, roll call, please.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance to correct the lot coverage limit reduction from 40% to 35%, and what was left out before, and to 30% for properties that are remaining on septic tanks.
So moved.
That's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I have a, no discussion? So roll call.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Emergency Ordinance 2020-09. An emergency ordinance including measures to protect the citizens of the Isle of Palms from the COVID-19 pandemic and changes to parking enforcement regulations. Here we will be having discussions. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have an amendment to the motion.
Yes, sir.
The amendment is to instruct administration and staff to immediately or as soon as possible start working on an ordinance to eliminate and prohibit all parking on the landward side of Palm Boulevard from 22nd Avenue to 40th Avenue. Exception being homeowners and renters of those houses. Parking is permitted in front of said property.
Second.
Okay, just to make sure that we can do this at this time, I'm going to look at Miss Julia Copeland to make sure we can do this.
You're on mute, Julia. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now she,
Back on mute.
Julia, you're on mute.
Are we playing that game again, Desiree?
No, I'm not doing anything.
I mean, you guys can certainly entertain an amendment to this emergency ordinance if we can if we can justify that it's in the interest of public safety at this point. But I think Mr. Ward just made it in the motion of an amendment. Was there a second?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there would have to be some consideration and a vote, of course.
Okay, Councilmember Ward.
To address the attorney's question, this is strictly because of safety reasons. Strictly because of safety reasons. Cars, we all know the history. I'm not going to go through it with you all, but what is getting worse every year. It's getting worse every weekend. The traffic on Palm Boulevard is 3 and 4 deep. We haven't given the police chief the tools to enforce writing tickets out there. Right now, if somebody needed an ambulance or they needed the fire department to come to their house and it started raining, I'm afraid they couldn't get there because the Palm Boulevard, as well as Waterway, and sometimes as well as Cameron and Hartnett, are parking lots. There is no way for emergency vehicles to get around that traffic when you got 3 and 4 deep on one side of Palm and cars on the ocean side of Palm. And I am promoting this strictly for safety reasons. I'm worried about the health and safety of our citizens and our visitors.
Councilmember Streetman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And I want to totally agree with Councilman Ward on this. The last couple of weekends, I've been out on Palm Boulevard, up and down from 21st all the way to 57th and back. And I've had a lot of communication with not only residents of the island, but also Desiree and Chief Cornett in regards to what I saw, including some pictures and things like that I forwarded on also. But the safety issue or the lack of safety is truly something we've got to address. Someone's going to get hurt very badly out there. And I'm afraid it's going to be a child. I don't want to get anyone hurt, but it's just what you see in terms of U-turns, speeding up and down the avenues. It's just, I mean, it's really out of hand. And it was, no one's fault, I don't think. We can't really anticipate that we would have had that much traffic, I guess. I guess it's for a number of reasons, good weather, and and people out of school, things like that as well. But one of the people that I talked to, a long-term resident, was out on his bicycle on Sunday. I think it was Sunday, either Saturday or Sunday. and counted 152 double park or triple park vehicles just on his short bike ride from like what I think from like 23rd to up to 41st, you know. So that's the kind of problem we're faced with. And I ran into a young beach patrol officer, beach services officer, nice young man, had a little conversation with him. He was really working hard, doing all he could do to ticket the illegal vehicles. And I don't fault him at all, because he was a one-man wrecking team out there, and he was just trying to keep things in some sort of sanity, I guess you'd say. And you know, and he was just doing all he could. And it was clear to me that we're just getting overwhelmed. And I think that we've got to put these measures in place on that land side to make sure we ensure safety of residents and also ensure safety of the visitors we have out here too, because it's a real critical situation. So I agree. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, I totally agree that we should get staff to start looking into eliminating that side of Palm Boulevard. What can we do in the meanwhile? How can we limit one lane on the land side? Draw the two lines, make people stay within the two lines, and find somebody who goes outside that second line landward inside on the landline side of Palm Boulevard. We got to do something about it.
And Councilmember.
Yeah.
Yes, included in the emergency ordinance is an emergency amendment to the parking ordinance. It provides more clarity and the ability for police officers to clearly enforce the double parking. There have been some concerns about the language in the code about the double parking, in which officers would not be able to issue a ticket. They can't prosecute in court. So unless they witness the person double parking, they would not be able to issue that citation. So what we have presented to you all is a clear delineation of the space where parking would be available, which is between 4 feet off the road and 14 feet. We would be marking that with spray paint to ensure that it stays on. However, it's not the city's responsibility to mark that. We do that as a gesture to our visitors to, give them a better indication of where they could legally park. We mark the 4 feet off, and a lot of times we have people who park way close to the pavement, even though there's a line there. So there's no guarantee that people will park between the lines, but the police department would be able to issue tickets whether or not they witness the infraction happening if there are any vehicles that are outside of that 14-foot line. Chief, do you want to add anything?
Yes, what I would add is that with the double parking, there was a gray area. With what's proposed in the emergency ordinance, it takes that gray area away. Anybody that is closer than 4 feet is in violation. Anybody that is further than 14 feet is in violation. No gray area there. It's black and white. Very easy for an officer or a BSO to see a violation and address that violation.
Councilmember Bell.
Just quickly back to the Councilmember Ward's comments about safety. Those that have ridden down there on bicycles, whatever, when you're 3 deep, your access point is the sidewalk to get out. And it's less than comical watching that. One other quick comment relates back to enforcement and the budget. And we didn't address it in the budget, but I would encourage the chief. The only self-funding job we have on this island is BSO patrol. I wouldn't hesitate to ask for the proper amount that we deem to make sure that we enforce, because frankly, the complaints we've had from residents about non-enforcement, I agree with Councilmember Streetman. The BSOs we have out there are working hard. There's no criticism. We just simply don't have enough. And I know we've always budgeted 10. We've typically had about 6. Personally, I don't care if you have 20. It's a self-funding job, and we ought to look at it as a public safety concern and put the proper amount of people out.
Thank you. Councilmember Pounds.
Yeah, quick question, I guess, Mayor, and I'm not even sure who to direct this to. I mean, I agree with a lot of the comments that have been said, but is there going to be, just like shifting from pull-in parking to parallel parking. This is kind of an unintended consequence with the perfect storm this year. Is there going to be another unintended consequence by eventually blocking or roping off that section of Palm? And again, I don't know who to direct that to other than just discussion amongst council or chief or anybody else. It seems like we're going to put a lot of traffic on the residential areas. So just a question for food for thought that I'd love to hear some response to.
I think what Councilmember Ward has proposed and also what we're going to be reading, I think we should maybe vote on the amendment and then let's go through the therefores. So we all know, yes, Desiree, I see you.
Yes, I just need a little bit more clarity on the amendment. If Councilmember Ward would repeat that. I'm not sure if the instruction is for the city to implement immediately or very soon, eliminating parking on Palm Boulevard on the land side between 20th and 41st, or is it to look into it?
The amendment is to instruct the administration and staff to immediately or as soon as possible start work on an ordinance eliminating and prohibiting all parking on the landward side of Palm Boulevard from 22nd to 40th Avenue. 21st to 22nd is already no parking. 40th to 41st is already no parking. Exception being homeowners and renters of those homes. They can park, of course, in front of their said property. So the amendment is to start work on the ordinance. That's all it is.
Okay.
And I totally agree with the ordinance. And Ryan's had a lot to do with that, and John Moy did too. But I just wanted to get this in there for down the road. I know it's not going to happen next week, but we need to set a goal and lay down the line and say this, no pun intended, but saying that we've just had enough. We just can't take it anymore. It's a real safety issue.
Councilmember.
I have a question.
Right, Councilmember Buchanan's been holding his hand up for a second.
Thank you, Mayor. And okay, thanks for the clarification on that, Jimmy, because I wasn't sure if you were trying to replace.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Because I'm curious now because this emergency ordinance will go through, give the chief some teeth to go through and enforce those double parking and triple parking. And hopefully by this week, I mean, if we pass it now, he can start enforcing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then by this weekend, 4th of July, everybody will have that. And basically do a presser. I'm sure the media is going to pick up on this.
Well, I know I'm 100% behind you on it.
All double and triple parking. And hopefully that will alleviate a lot of those problems that we have. And just because right now people are driving down, they're not seeing tickets on those cars that are double and triple parked. Now they'll see them. We'll be aware of it. We're going to put signage out, make sure people are aware of all of that. And I think that's going to help alleviate a lot of those problems. But yeah, we can continue to work on.
I'm with you 100%, Ryan. It wasn't meant to displace all the hard work that you've done. And
no.
All the hard work John Moy's done.
Councilmember Smith, I think you had a question.
Yes, a couple of comments, and I agree with, I think, most or all of the comments that have been said already. It's worth noting that when you start to double and triple park along Palm, plus add in the extra spots that people have now discovered at the rec center, we have double and tripled the volume of cars that are out there on a busy weekend. So beyond that, I'm interested in us looking at whether we can expand the residential parking district to include Palm, so that people, especially in golf carts, who are residents who live within the heart of the island, could potentially park on the land side of Palm, and then not only for their convenience, but also in freeing up spaces for visitors. So, but totally agree, both from a macro perspective of volume, as well as a micro perspective of the volume of people who are crossing the street with limited visibility. When you start to condense that number of people visiting and parking on that side of the street. I think this is something important that we need to pursue.
One question, Councilmember Ward, is you've said two things, and immediately and as soon as possible. I would like to hear immediately.
Let's say fast.
Tomorrow?
No,
I know, not tomorrow.
I understand staff has got a million things going on, but we have to listen to our residents and take care of them and protect them. I am not trying to put pressure on people. I'm just trying to say, with all due haste, let's get this done.
Desiree, is there anything we should say along those lines as to speed?
No, I think, I think it's very doable for us to present some recommendations to public safety at their next, their July meeting for consideration. Any changes would have to go through the ordinance process. So I think that we would be in good track by doing that.
Shall we vote on the amendment?
Yes.
And then we'll come back to everything else.
Yeah, because we still need an action on the other amendments here.
A lot of stuff.
Okay.
A lot of stuff. Okay. Roll call for the amendment.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Unanimous. Okay, going back to our emergency ordinance 2020-09, and forget all the whereas, and let's go to the therefores. Number one, Owl Palms temporary suspension. Yeah, we're gonna keep this thing moving here. Remotely participate in voting, operate, we're doing that. Local businesses on the island authorized to purchase and distribute end containers, plastic during the emergency. We're doing that. All deadlines imposed by the city ordinance applicable to the municipality applicant shall be suspended until July 15th. The city administrator is authorized to develop and enact a plan in order to ensure continuity in the delivery government services, COVID-19 outbreak. We're doing that. City administrator authorized to cancel or revoke any special events. We're doing that. Y'all can see I'm leaving out a lot of words. Any person on beach will be required to maintain social distancing. We're doing that. Starting May 12th, that's past us. Face coverings, number 8. Every person working, living, visiting, or doing business on Owl Palms is required to wear a face covering consistent with their current CDC guidelines while in a public place where social distancing cannot be maintained. Desiree, would you please give us a definition of public place?
Well, that is something that is up for council to define. Public settings could mean public places, could mean public facilities, which in our case would only apply to, city buildings, parks, but it could also be expanded to mean public settings, any place where the public gathers, where social distancing is not or is challenging to be enforced. So I need some direction from you all about the intention of the requirement of the use of face masks, whether it's just to include public facilities, city hall, the recreation center, unless they're exercising. You've already seen an exception there for folks who are exercising. Or is the intent to do something like other communities have done, like the city of Greenville, city of Columbia is also considering amendments, emergency ordinance to require people going into businesses to wear face masks. Then I'm hoping that's part of the discussion that you all have and include some clarity in the existing emergency ordinance.
Thank you.
As it stands right now, there are some exceptions that I think are noted in the last page. Folks under 2 years old, anybody who, if using a face covering would cause impairment due to an existing health condition, folks working where the use of a face mask or face covering will impede the ability to perform these duties, and those folks exercising while observing social distancing. There's also a section C8C talks about businesses being strongly encouraged to follow CDC guidelines or any industry standards on face coverings on social distancing unless the wearing of the patron's face mask or covering would impede the patron's service, in which case only the service provided must wear a face mask or covering. So currently, as it reads, employees of these retailers or any business would be required to wear a face mask when having face-to-face interaction with the member of the public.
I think in today's newspaper, there must have been at least 4 articles about communities, both locally and across the state, going forward with this. Comments, please, from our council members. Councilmember Streetman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Well, Greenville, as we all know, my hometown, passed an ordinance and requiring masks for everyone. And they were requiring them really only in grocery stores and pharmacies. Now, this is a town that has 70,000 people, so there's a lot of grocery stores, a lot of pharmacies up there. And they're also providing masks. They're going to actually buy masks, I think 27,000 masks, and provide those to the businesses to do that. It does not apply to convenience stores, but it's, again, just grocery stores and pharmacies that they've covered with this. No convenience stores are under this umbrella. And they're also requiring that all employees of pretty much any business, restaurants, bars, salons, barbershops, and any retail establishment would be required to wear a mask at any time there's a face-to-face interaction with the public. So they're doing that for 60 days, or, they could modify it, sooner or extend it, or, whatever. My issue with this is when it came up before with face mask, we had a discussion about the grocery store we had on the island, and being in that business for many, many years, I can tell you that a business, private business, an individual owner can make a conscious decision to put that kind of rule in place for their place of business. There's really no reason they can't do that. I don't see myself where this ought to be a government mandate. I think it's overreach on our part to put an ordinance in place that would require people to wear face masks pretty much everywhere they go. And so to that extent, I would say let's stay with our resolution that we have out there, and let's strongly encourage people to wear masks, just as we all do when we go someplace out here on the island. I know I'm wearing mine, and have the expectation that that people will follow our resolution that we have without it being government mandated. And again, I would just reinforce one more time that a private business, any private business could make those exceptions. I made them myself when I was running stores. That, if we had a special situation, it wasn't a pandemic, but it could be things in regards to, the traffic flow in a small beach resort area like Edisto Island, places like that. We had to do things that were limitations that were out of the norm that you normally didn't do in a corporate setting for every other store. But for that particular store, you had to make a special exception. That could be done here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bell.
Yeah. In general, I agree. The reality is, if you go to Aristida, it's not working. It was a disaster there today of predominantly off-island people with no mask. Our unanimous resolution to put signage on it, try to find the sign on the door. It's fairly non-existent. It's pretty apparent, I think, to the residents that Harris Teeter is not going to force what I absolutely agree with Councilmember Streetman on, is that the store should take responsibility. They have not. And we have, 25,000 cars per day on the weekend coming over the island with tons of tourists that frankly don't care that we passed a unanimous resolution. If we can limit this to it's really almost comical. I think our definition of essential businesses does not include bowling alleys and massage parlors. I look at the places I have to go. I have to go to the grocery store. I have to go to pharmacies. I don't have to go to Front Beach and entertain myself, and I don't. I personally don't go down to the marina that has a lot of tourists there. But I got to tell you, we're still an aged population on this island. Our demographics are off the chart. We had the most restrictions in place when we had the least amount of cases. We're not peaking yet. And I think it's our responsibility to give some serious consideration to putting some restrictive measures in place until such time that the business entities themselves do that. So if, and this is an if we can limit it to grocery stores and pharmacies, I'm absolutely in favor of it.
Anyone else would like to speak up? Yes, Councilmember Pounds.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Randy, I guess, to that point, if we're really targeting to some extent the 25,000 people coming over on weekends and now really all during the week, I just don't know how we get that message across to those folks. This issue has become so politicized, and it's kind of a no-win situation. But I love what's going on at Folly Beach or happened today. Their business community got together and figured out a plan, as opposed to looking for government, to Rusty's point, to come up and be the bad guys to some extent. Their business community took it upon themselves to get together and come up with a plan. I think that is awesome. And that's really what I would love to have had happen on IOP. It hasn't, so I know we're stuck with having to come up with something, but I just, with Rusty, it feels like it's overreach. If we're gonna limit it, I might could get on board with that. But Randy, I'm concerned on, we put something out there, the residents are most likely going to follow it, but the 25,000 people coming over, I don't know how we get that compliant.
But Greenville carries fines. I mean, it's replete with enforcement.
So does parking, Randy.
Councilmember Hopkins. You're mute.
Kevin.
Mute.
Muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Totally agree with Councilman Straitman. I think this is up to the businesses to mandate. I just, again, to say the word overreach, I just cannot agree to vote to mandate masks for making people wear the masks. I just can't support it.
Councilmember Moy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not old enough to remember the seatbelt legislation when that, but I understand that the word overreach was used pretty liberally during that time. That was the common critique, and now I don't think anyone bats an eye at buckle up laws. And I'm not comparing face masks to buckle up, but the reason I would support a mandate for masks, particularly in places like grocery stores and pharmacies, and frankly, if that was the limitation, I would be completely for it. The reason that I support it is right now, that's the guidance that we have from experts in terms of what we can do to help stop the spread and help protect our neighbors, our employees, and even, in some cases, if the private businesses don't want to protect their staff and protect their customers, that's unfortunate, but we should be trying to protect their staff and our community and our neighbors. And I think there's a selfish motive that we can appeal to as well. And frankly, the more that we do to control this disease, and we've said this from the very beginning, the more that we do to stem the tide, the more that we do to reduce the impact it has on our community, the faster we can get back to normal. And I think from my perspective, that the more that we do, and wearing face masks is such a low inconvenience to ask of people, that if that's all that it takes to potentially save lives, potentially reduce the spread, and potentially get us back to business faster, then why would we not do everything that's within our power to help promote good health and good public safety.
Thank you. Councilmember Popson.
I have,
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's let Susan go because category.
Sure.
thank you. I'll just chime in with Councilmember Moy and point out, I think all of us received at least one email from a restaurant owner who was quite concerned to hear that they were having difficulty with patrons who were not paying attention to their request for social distancing and being ugly about it. That to me is really alarming. To put this in place for restaurants, I think obviously is probably going to be a difficult stretch. But I think that it makes sense to put this in place for businesses that have groceries, which I'm fine with that, including convenience stores and the marina, and also pharmacies. And think that that's, for all the reasons that Councilmember Moy has explained, that's not a huge request of our public. And it sounds like businesses need us to give it some teeth so that they can go to their public, which this has become a divisive issue, to say to them, this is the rules and we need you to follow them. That's all I got. Thanks.
Councilmember Popson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I totally agree with Councilman Moy and Councilman Smith. Yes, we need to encourage our residents to wear a mask and visitors to wear a mask. I just have a struggle to make a law to mandate. And then the other thing is how do we monitor? What are we going to have? Is Chief going to have somebody standing at the Harris Teeter in the pharmacy every day to check who has a mask and who not? I just think it's going to be difficult to monitor. But I totally agree we should encourage, like our resolution last month was for.
Councilmember Streetman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to follow up here, and I'll try to be as brief as I can. But again, I hate to play the whole movie, but I am. But for many years, I was in the business that was public facing, and if you've got an unruly customer, you can ask them to leave. If you're a business owner, you can ask them to get out. If they're being abusive to your employees, you have got every right and obligation to protect your employees. So I just don't see it as the government's job to step in and manage those type of situations for private businesses. I'm very sympathetic about wearing masks in public. I do it myself, and I expect that most people that are concerned and citizens out here do that. But I just don't think we can effectively dictate that, mandate that, and have it followed through by the visitors we have on this island every week, without it just being a major headache for us in some ways. So I can't go there. Thanks.
Councilmember Moy, then Councilmember Bell.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just respond to Councilmember Popson. I appreciate your. I think in so many ways as individuals we're pretty aligned up here. My struggle with the encouragement is I think that's what we've been doing, and if you go to the Harris Teeter, you'll see that the impact of our encouragements, and unfortunately they're not having the impact that we need.
Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, the manager of Harris Teeter at one point said if it were required, he would do it, or if headquarters required. I don't feel that if we pass this, the onus is on the police department. The onus is on the business to comply to the local laws. We're talking about an emergency ordinance that would require them to mandate a mask. And the simple answer is, if they try to come in without a mask, they get to leave. If a 40-year-old tries to come during senior hours, they do the same thing. They ask them to leave. It is not fair to people that are trying to protect their health to have somebody, wherever they're from, infringe on their own personal rights and endanger their health and safety. And I'd like to put the onus back on the management of Harris Teeters. The pharmacy is very responsible, by the way. So, we're including pharmacies in this discussion, but compliments to Delta Pharmacy. They're very responsible. We don't have the same experience at Harris Teeter, and believing that, this is South Carolina, it's just going to work. We're almost leading the nation in cases at this point. It's not working anywhere.
I'm going to chime in here for a second. I went to Columbia with the South Carolina beach advocates and local mayors to talk about what worked and what didn't work with the COVID-19 beach access. We're trying to have a uniform way of doing it. We also talked about masks, and he blatantly said that he's not going to require masks to be worn because it's impossible for the police departments to police. We are in a major public safety problem right now. We closed down the access to the beaches before for 2 months when we had far less cases. Now I just looked it up. We're at 17. It was 18 this morning. It's 17 cases on Isle of Palms that we know about. So as our doctor told us before, take that times 10 to 24 times for active cases on Isle of Palms. This is growing and is growing. It's snowballing. Anyone else? Councilmember Ward.
You're on mute.
Jimmy, we can't hear you.
I'll just do sign language.
There you go.
All of these have been great comments, but I'm hanging in there with Rusty on this. He thinks like I do about these this government stuff. But have we reached out to the businesses, even with some flyers or something, even invite them to City Hall to say, we strongly encourage you to do this, as Randy Bell has suggested. Now, Randy wants the ordinance. I understand that. Randy's saying it's getting out of control, and it is getting out of control. We have a real problem here. But I'm with Rusty in that I don't like government mandates and government interference. I like for the freedom of the business owner to run his business as he sees fit. And I don't think that the onus should be on us at this point. If they think that there's a problem, then they should be good, responsible citizens and mandate this face mask be worn by everybody. But I like to see them make the decision and not city council. Thank you.
Administrator Fregasso.
So I just wanted to add that I did reach out to the corporate offices from Harris Teeter and spoke with one of their representatives, and they indicated that if council passed an ordinance requiring the use of face masks, that they unfortunately will not enforce it inside. They're the people that work in their grocery store are not, they didn't necessarily sign up to have those conversations with folks or asking people to leave. And they also indicated that they will not deny service of somebody who's not wearing a mask inside their store. So just wanted to let you all know that. And then the other thing is you all recall council, you all approved some grant funds for the Back to Business program for the businesses. And we've been sending communication to them, multiple times by now, and nobody has yet signed up. So, certainly unfortunate, and would hope that there was more appetite from our business community to take advantage of that opportunity like we did with the recreation center. But as of today, nobody has expressed any interest or signed up to get that, matching grant program from the city.
For my second and last comment on this subject, I was so impressed with Folly Beach, and I forgot who said it on our council members, but they did a great job getting together and coming up with a solution. And I hope all of our business owners are watching this council meeting tonight and can get together and come up with a unified plan. So, because we could be shut down again. We could be shut down for more than 2 months if this thing goes further than it is now. we better wake up or we're in serious trouble. And we talk about a fluid budget, that budget would be out the window. That's all I've got to say. Anyone else? So I guess when it comes to face mask, that is, do we have
So maybe a motion to reject if there is no appetite to include it in the final passage?
I think we're gonna have to take it out. Yeah.
You
Councilman-
can't make a motion to reject anything. It has to be in the positive.
Oh, okay. Motion to approve the emergency ordinance, and then we can just spell out the changes, which would include section 9, everything except section 8.
And don't forget, we got 9 still to go, which has.
Yes.
Well, so I'm wondering, this is just a question, and maybe Julia and Desiree, I can figure this out. If you still have one more section to go.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we go there, we have that discussion, and then.
If there's a motion to approve the amendment or the resolution as proposed, someone could make an amendment.
There's.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to make a motion to approve the emergency ordinance as written.
I'll second.
Well, there was a motion on the floor.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry.
So
There's already a motion on the floor. Oh.
It would be an amendment to the motion. We've already had one amendment, which was Councilmember Ward's on the non-Oceanside parking of Palm Boulevard.
Correct, but prior to that, Councilmember Ward and Councilmember Buchanan made a motion to approve emergency ordinance 2020-09. So that was already on the floor. Then we had the vote and discussion and vote on his amendment about staff working on parking. And now we're discussing specifically section 8. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm thinking and talking at the same time about you can't make a motion in the negative to take it out.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to make a motion on that section 8 to limit the restrictions on face masks to grocery stores and pharmacy.
I will second that.
So that's an amendment, correct? Says,
In the
yes.
positive.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, discussion, Councilmember Ward.
Didn't the executives at Harris Teeter just say they wouldn't enforce it?
Mm-hmm.
Or turn anybody away, Jimmy.
Right. And, we all go to the Delta Pharmacy, and I wouldn't dare think about going in there without face mask. And I've never seen anybody they're real good about it. So I'm just questioning the need for it, since it's going to be, the biggest business is saying they're not going to enforce it.
Well, I can tell you they definitely won't enforce it if we don't ask them to. So
And
they just said they won't.
Desiree,
we still go on record as council members with our opinions on that subject.
okay, one at a time, please. Anyone else?
I'm done.
Councilmember Moore.
Similar to Councilmember Bell in terms of going on the record, issuing a resolution with no teeth doesn't really make news.
Right.
And part of what we do here is we're joining the coalition of towns like Greenville that are saying our public that we believe that this is important enough to public health that we're going to mandate it.
Anyone else? Councilmember Buchanan.
The problem with the coalition is towns, it's not Greenville. It's Mount Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, North Charleston, Latson. It's the surrounding communities and whether they get on board with it as well. Greenville can act, they're upstate, they're 3.5 hours away. It's the communities, whether on the other side, we can enact all this what you want, but you're going to go over to Lowe's and you're going to be right next to each other. You're going to go to Home Depot. You're going to go to the Walmart over there. You're going to be the same situation. It's smart and prudent to wear a mask. And, if you're going over there to go shopping and you're not wearing it, it doesn't make any sense. So.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm not sure where we're at voting. So Nicole, I'm looking for you to see where we're at and where the motion is and where we're on amendments.
Well, this particular one is to require, and I was going to ask Councilmember Smith for a clarification as well. Limit the face mask, requiring face masks to grocery stores and pharmacies. At one point, somebody, and I believe this is also Councilmember Smith, said she considered groceries anything that had food. So that would include the marina store and the convenience store.
Well, groceries, I mean, not restaurants, but.
Right, but you also, but I'm just asking for the sake
Yeah.
of clarity for staff.
To include the convenience store in the marina.
Okay, thank you.
What about the gas station that has bananas and stuff in there? Is that
That's the convenience
That's a
store.
convenience store.
making sure?
Thank you. Yes, they have bananas.
So the motion is for
So do we.
section 8. The motion is for section 8 to require masks for grocery stores, the pharmacy, convenience stores, and the marina.
Okay, that's.
May I make one comment before we do this? I would recommend to Councilmember Smith, as this gets reworded, I would limit it to grocery stores. That the practicality of getting workers showing up, going into a convenience store after purchasing gasoline in the morning is nil. The practicality of getting compliance, making a statement for a large scale operation that is heavily frequented by off-island guests and on-island people is a lot more practical. So Councilmember Smith, I would recommend on your amendment, which I seconded, that it's limited to grocery stores and pharmacies.
I will take that. And if we want to can we do a friendly amendment then?
Well, we're just taking out what you had said just to.
Yeah, we're just going back to what
Okay.
you originally said.
Fine.
Which
Okay,
was-
just keep it to grocery stores and pharmacy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody
Okay,
ready?
anyone else? Nicole?
All right. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Nay.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Nay.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Nay.
Councilmember Popson,
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman,
Nay.
Mayor Carroll.
Nay.
The motion fails 3-6.
Stop. Sorry.
Now you're not on mute.
All right, bye, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Don't take it personally, Mayor.
Okay, moving on.
The one time he's not on mute.
So we have now covered face masks.
Well, I
Number
think
nine.
that that was just a vote on an amendment
Yeah.
to
Okay.
modify the language. There's still.
The original amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else, Desiree, that we need to tackle with,
Where are we at here?
Well,
Yeah.
I
let's not
guess
worry about that.
Move section 8 from one comprehensive vote is, I think, the question.
correct. So Nicole, Julia, do you have any?
I think Councilmember Moy was on the right track. If there's a motion right now to approve the entire emergency ordinance, someone can make a motion to amend to remove section 8. I think that might be the clean way to go, and it'll give you a positive motion, Nicole,
Yes.
Mhm.
if someone's willing to entertain that.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none?
Wait, can we,
Sure we
can you
can.
repeat that, please? I just didn't get it
Motion
all.
to remove section 8 from emergency ordinance 2020-09.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Ready?
Is it everybody clear?
Yes. Vote.
Okay, Nicole?
Councilmember Smith,
Nay.
Councilmember Moy,
Nay.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Nay.
Councilmember Ward. Can you unmute yourself? Yes. He says aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-3.
Okay, moving along. Desiree, we could. Um, 9, in order to allow the enforcement for its officers, the city desires to amend ordinances section 8-2-2 by adding V5, well, within designated beach parking zones no closer than 4 feet to the pavement and or further than 14 feet from the pavement, except as otherwise posted in beach parking. And section 8-2-45P to read pavement except for otherwise posted. Any violation will be subject to penalties described in ordinances 8-2-14. Do we have a motion? Or do we need a motion? Because this is our original.
No, before you all vote, before you all vote on the motion to approve as presented without section 8, which has been addressed via an amendment, I just want to make sure that you all understand that this ordinance would extend the city's state of emergency. It would continue to allow the city to maintain virtual meetings during the process. Section 5, the city administrator is authorized to cancel and revoke any special permits issued prior to the date of this ordinance for events taking place until that date could be when this emergency ordinance would expire, which would be in 61 days. So is that the intent?
That's the intent.
Okay, and then the other thing is that section 2 allows local businesses on the island to purchase, use, and distribute containers that do not comply with the city's plastic ban. So the city would be extending that waiver for 61 more days.
Oh, I'm not good with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight it because I didn't want, make sure that if y'all wanted to discuss it, you had the opportunity to.
And I was actually thinking that we should discuss that in Public Works to give the businesses a heads up. But at this point, I think especially with the information that's out there that suggests that surfaces are not the issue that we used to think they were in terms of spread of the disease. And the fact that when it was put to me by one of the business owners requested this waiver, he made a case, and this is somebody who was very conscientious and was already putting environmentally safe packaging in place before it was even requested or mandated by the city. But he said he simply didn't have access to the supplies that he needed to keep up with takeout demand at that time. Now that was at the onset of this whole situation, but we're much farther down the road now, and businesses should be able, if we give them a heads up, to comply with our original restrictions around packaging. We shouldn't be giving up our, protections of the environment at this point. I think we've allowed enough, grace for the restaurants to handle that.
Okay.
So if it's not,
Councilmember McGinn.
And that comes, I think a lot of that surrounded the fact that we had, the restaurants were doing takeout only. And that was before when we enacted that. And I think Desiree, and we only had a time limit on how long they could have exterior or outdoor seating as well. So we need to make sure that this emergency order allows that extension of the outdoor seating, because, the restaurants are still at 50% capacity right now. So that they can still have their social distancing and be able to operate in a safe way.
It's currently not included in the emergency ordinance, but it could certainly be added as part of an amendment to extend that. The plastic ban waiver would expire on July 8th because that's when the 61 days would come up after the last approved emergency ordinance, which was in May 8th. So if council doesn't take any action on that plastic bans, that would expire on the 8th.
But council, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I may, but council may at any time come forward, even though we may extend it 61 days, we can come back in 2 weeks and amend it and cancel that emergency order based on the findings that we're seeing. So
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of what we've done about the plastic bans. We've been working under these conditions because of the COVID virus. You know, so again, Susan, I feel for you and for everybody in our environment, but 61 days, and then anytime during that 61 days, we can change it.
Well, I think it would be good for us to have this discussion in Public Works, and I definitely want to give the businesses a heads up so that they can be ready for the shift back to normal.
Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think a lot of people are still doing a whole lot of takeout, so I'm with you. I'd like to keep it just like it is and make it easy as we can for right now.
Okay, the chief got away. Is there anything that we needed from him? I think he was pretty clear that he liked the 4 and 14 foot.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, we worked on that together this week with the city attorney, and that will give the police department the teeth it needs to be able to to write the citations for those folks that do park double or triple park.
And that becomes immediate.
Yes, that
a
is
couple
correct.
days when he's ready for it.
Yep.
It would start being enforced tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Comments? Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And if I don't see it in the thing, what's the fine? Is it the $100 fine?
For the parking?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
$100.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Nicole?
Let's vote.
So you're voting on emergency ordinance 2020-09 as amended.
Yes, ma'am. Would you clarify that amendment just to make sure everybody's on board?
The amendment was to eliminate section 8. And it was to have staff, instruct staff and administration to begin working on addressing the elimination of parking on the land side of Palm Boulevard, except for those homeowners and property owners that live there. That was the approved amendment, and section 8 was removed from the emergency ordinance.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready? Nicole?
Absolutely. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Moy?
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Bell?
Aye.
Councilmember Ward? You're on mute.
Read his lips.
I know.
Just do thumbs up, Jimmy.
There he goes. Councilmember Buchanan?
Aye.
Councilmember Popson?
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman?
Aye.
Mayor Carroll?
Aye.
All in favor?
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, miscellaneous business. Next meeting is 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 28th. Executive session is needed in accordance with section 30-4-70A2. We are not going to talk about the negotiations incident to the proposed contractual arrangements related to the marina restaurant lease, but we need to seek legal advice for paid parking and along Ocean Boulevard and short-term vacation rentals. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to seek legal advice about paid parking along.
Councilmember Ward is just vociferous.
Is it a mosquito?
There we go. Oh, now he's back on mute.
Back on mute.
Jimmy.
There you go.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can we take a 5-minute break? Go to the restroom?
As we go into executive session, we
Make a motion.
I mean, can we take a, come on, really, just a 5-minute break, just go to the restroom?
Do
We've
it
been
at that
sitting,
point.
sitting here 2.5 hours.
As we're going to,
okay.
Roll
Just-
call for executive session.
yes. Executive.
Okay. Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Thank you, Nicole. Aye.
You all are off record at 8:24.
Yes,
No,
you all received a separate Zoom meeting for the executive session, so we'll do that again. We'll keep the live streaming on.
Okay.
Are we off?
We're leaving this one, no?
Jimmy? Yes,
Yeah.
we're leaving and then going to the other
Right.
Zoom for the executive session. Jimmy, so if you
Yeah,
click leave.
Yeah, I know. Desiree, listen to me a second. Desiree.
Yes, I'm here. We're live streaming, Jimmy.
Yeah, okay. I'll call you.
Okay, you need to click leave at the bottom of your page.
Okay, trying to find it. Don't worry about it.
I see Rusty and Philip, and
Can you see me?
yeah, it's kind of weird. Just a little square down on the bottom right.
Yeah, okay. I could see you and I saw
Steve, you
Philip
get
a minute ago.
presentation screen off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Okay,
There it is.
there we go. Okay, see.
Let us know when we're going back, we're live.
Yes, sir, we're live. You have a quorum, so you may proceed.
Okay. We have come out of executive sessions. No decisions have been made.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear
Second,
any motions or anything?
second. Oh.
So
I
who
second
made the
Councilmember
motion?
Moy.
Moy?
Is John coming?
Jones, I think
John
John's
made a
here.
motion.
There he is. Oh, he's up at the top. Everybody gets moved around on my screen here. Okay, do we hear any motions?
I made a motion to adjourn that was seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Good night.
Have a good night.
Aye.
Be safe.